Hello everybody and welcome back to more Let's Play Final Fantasy VIII. Alright, so now we're actually heading off to take out the next boss, which is actually in the armory room right next to the prison. Who the hell knows? Anyways, this next boss that we're versing is known as Gargantua. Gargantua is actually a pretty easy boss for the most part, but it's a kind of an interesting boss at the same time considering. Gargantua is actually, the fight starts out with Gargantua, is that Gargantua is actually a normal enemy, and then it actually transforms into a boss, which is kind of unique, but I don't know. Now, this is another boss that I could argue that it's a recolor or not, but this boss is actually unique, because Gargantua is actually the combination of these three enemies, which nobody's seen before, because it was in an area of the game that I didn't really show off because I was grinding to get GF abilities up. Yeah, I didn't want to show that. Actually, I did show that off. I showed off a few of the battles because I wanted to show off a Day as Limit Breaker, and I remember it. But yeah, that was at the Great Salt Lake a while back. So anyways, the bastard dies and then picks itself out of the ground, which is very bizarre. Now, an easy way to take out this boss fight is just Limit Breaker and then take it out. Now, note, if you're versing this guy, he has abilities that are Evil Eye that curses you and causes slow on your party members, which means your attacks are weakened and you're also slow as hell. Which sucks, but Also, be very wary of attacking him, because what Gargantua likes to do is if you attack it, it likes to counterattack with this ability called Squeeze something. It's a weird ability where he grabs you by his hands and just squeezes you. So just be a little bit wary about that when you're versing this guy. He likes to counter physical attacks. But much like the rest, Gargantua disappears in weird crystal formalization after being destroyed by explosions. Yeah. Okay. Alright. So there's only one boss left, and luckily it is not that bad. The next boss that we're going to be versing is Cytoplas. Or, I can never pronounce his name. Much like in other video games, like in The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, nobody can pronounce two characters in particular. Like, there's one character that's name is Aghanim, and a lot of people are getting confused. It's like, how the hell do you say his name? And another person's name is Sahasrara. Honestly, there are weird names that I couldn't pronounce. For the longest time, I thought Renoa's name was Renoa. I don't ask me why. I had another pronunciation of a character's name. Like, honestly, pronunciations of names just mess with me sometimes. Hell, I even thought for the longest time from Final Fantasy IX, the main character's name was Zidane and not Zidane. I'm like, huh? That just kind of blew my mind when I heard that. And a lot of people, like, the argument between Titus's name, a lot of people thought his name was Titus, but they were corrected and it's Titus. So there are a lot of awkward segments that happen like that. Now, what I'm doing now, why I'm switching to another party, is there's an actual puzzle in the next room in order to get an item. The lone item in this entire dungeon. Mind you that. Now, the item you can get is an item called the Rosetta Stone. Now, we got this previously and earlier when we were in S-Star. S-Star, when we went to, what was it? It was a special shop that you could go to in S-Star to get the Rosetta Stone. And for anybody that doesn't know what the Rosetta Stone is, Rosetta Stone has the ability to give you ×4 ability. The ability to give you ability ×4. That's redundancy at its finest, people. Anyways, in order to get this, we need to get a key in this next room. Now, in order to do this, you need to do a little bit of weight puzzles, which is okay. It's not frustrating, but at the same time, it's just like, why? I don't know. So we actually have to go, oh, come on, don't do that. So we have to come into this room in order to get the floodgate key. Now, the floodgate key is the first step in getting the Rosetta Stone in this dungeon. But I will explain more about the Rosetta Stone side quest in this dungeon as soon as we take out the next boss. Because there isn't really much we have to deal with now, considering the next boss is pretty simple, and it's the last boss besides the super boss. The super boss. That's gonna be a lot of trouble. So anyways, I'm going into the SR shop to get elixirs, because honestly, elixirs are gonna be your best friends. Especially considering later on I'm gonna try to get mega elixirs from them. And I'll probably show off the glitch like I mentioned earlier in order to basically make infinite gil, which is pretty abusive in my opinion. Now, make sure everybody is well equipped for this boss battle, because it is quite an annoyance. So, over here, we can actually use the treasure vault key that we got earlier. And in order to traverse the boss level, much like all the other bosses, there's actually a puzzle. Now, there are 4 boxes and you need to open and close them. Your objective is just get them all open. The easiest way to solve this puzzle is the previous box that opened before you should open. For example, I want to open this middle one and now all 4 are open. It's a pretty simple puzzle if you know exactly what to do. Alright, so I want Zell to be as strong as possible for this fight. And Renault is just going to be on standby. But Renault is actually going to get more powerful in the next part, when we're going up against the super boss of this dungeon. Because honestly, Renault is the best character because of her limit breaker, which I have not shown off yet. Actually, she has technically 2 types of limit breakers, but I don't really utilize any of them until about now. So this is Cytoplas. He is basically a recolor of a behemoth. Big surprise. Anyways, this is just basically a magic user type boss. Not really too much of a threat considering how much junctions we have on elemental defense. But, much like usual, what you want to do, cast Aura on Squall, get Renosakin, and just basically kill it in one shot. It's not too much of a problem, so I can't really complain myself, because this fight has never really given me trouble in the past, and I've never had any bad experiences with Cytoplas. The only ones I've had real hard trouble on in the past would have to be either Trauma or Titmat. Those are the ones that usually give me the biggest trouble out of all of the bosses in this dungeon besides the super boss. And I basically one-shot it. Now, one thing is, be prepared for this to happen. Much like Crystalla, when it died, used Ultima. When Cytoplas dies, he likes to cast Meteor. Not a big threat, nothing too bothersome except Doomtree might faint. And luckily he didn't. Sweet. But that is the final boss of this dungeon. Normal bosses, considering the only ones left are plot-relevant bosses and optional super boss. And much like the other ones, it exploded and then dissolved into weird dust. Alright then. That was a boss. Okay, so now it's actually time to talk about the next thing, which is back to the Rosetta Stone side quest. The Rosetta Stone side quest is... it's annoying and it doesn't have to be. One thing that I don't like about the Rosetta Stone side quest is there is a part where you have to basically play the notes of an organ. I'll explain that. So this is what you do. You come back to the area where you have the prison and the armory, and you use the floodgate key here. Now, what this does is it actually cuts off the water flow to a lower area where the Rosetta Stone is at. So after that, you actually have to head over to this church. Now, the one thing about this stupid thing is there is an organ that you have to play. And in order to play it, you have to press 8 buttons at the exact same time. And this can be a hit or miss moment in this game. I've seen the PC version and you only have to press 4 buttons. What the hell, Sony? Whatever. I'll actually explain how the hell I do it in just a second. Okay, so I want to show an example of this annoying button pressing like I was mentioning. So, this is a standard PS1 controller, which everybody should know, because it's pretty standard. Especially since Sony doesn't really change up the format with their controllers anyway, so it's pretty much the same. So, what you have to do is, what I usually do is I press the 4 face buttons on the back, while at the same time I'm basically mashing down the 4 buttons on the front with the palm of my hand. So it is very awkward to see this because my pop filter is taking up most of the screen. I apologize for that, but that's how I get good audio quality sometimes. So, basically, press the 4 buttons on the back, then the 4 face buttons with the palm of my hand, and then I just time it, and hope to God that it works. And I go, nah. And there you go, that's how I did it, but honestly, it's the most annoying fucking thing in the world. Anyways, back to the video. Okay, so yeah. I was very lucky in this recording, because I did it on my first try, but sometimes it takes me 6 or 7 times, and it's quite annoying running back and forth trying to make this thing work. I was happy when I walked here and see that all the gates were down. I was like, thank you. But the reward is pretty good. After doing all this side quest stuff, you actually get the ability ×4, and considering that only one GF in the game actually has the ability ×4, and the only other way to learn this is to get the Rosetta Stone. So I would say the reward is pretty much worth it, considering we're going to have to abuse this when we have to verse the next boss. The next boss demands it. So, next time, we're going to be versing the super boss of this dungeon, the Omega Weapon. The Omega Weapon, doesn't matter what kind of run you do, this boss is a tough motherfucker. If you try to verse him at a high level like 100 or 99, this bastard has over 1,000,000 HP. Just to give you warning. Even if you're not versing him at that high enough level, he still has up to 100,000. Yeah, he's that powerful. But that's next time, people. As always, I would like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys as we prepare and fight the Omega Weapon, and then after that, it's time for endgame, people. I'll see you guys next time.